Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a concept that really makes you think. What happens when AI systems start solving problems we never actually taught them to solve?
Right.
And not just solving them, but finding these techniques that are so new, so unexpected, they almost seem, well, a bit spooky, maybe.
Yeah. Spooky is a word you hear sometimes.
So our deep dive today looks at what the HarrisonAI article calls the beautiful horror, when AI teaches itself the impossible. It really might change how you view intelligence itself.
Well, to really get into that, I think it's key to understand the big shift here. We need to differentiate.
Okay.
Forget traditional AI for a moment.
Yeah.
You know, the kind that follows strict rules, program patterns, very predictable.
Mm.
We're focusing on reinforcement learning, RL. And it works on a totally different basis. It's just pure trial and error.
Trial and error.
Yeah, guided only by one simple thing, maximizing some kind of reward.
Yeah.
There's no human teacher stepping in,
Yeah.
no detailed instructions, no pre-baked solutions given to the AI. So It's
Yeah.
really starting from scratch.
Okay, so let's unpack that. If traditional programming is like giving someone a detailed cookbook, step-by-step instructions for everything,
Right.
how does RL fit that analogy? Because it feels completely different.
It's almost the opposite. It's like locking someone in a kitchen, giving them a bunch of ingredients and just saying, your goal is to make something delicious. Go figure it out.
No recipe at all.
None. Just the goal. And the result, that's what's so wild. These AI systems, they don't just solve the problem you set.
Yeah.
They often invent entirely new ways to think about it.
Wow.
Ways that might seem illogical or roundabout to us. And this gets us right to that core idea of emergence.
Emergence, okay.
Right, where you see these really complex, seemingly intelligent behaviors just sort of pop up from very simple underlying rules. Nobody programmed the complex stuff explicitly.
So it wasn't planned.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It's kind of like watching, like watching intelligence bootstrap itself from basically nothing but that drive to get the reward.
And the examples of this emergence they're pretty mind-blowing, like the OpenAI hide-and-seek experiment.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic one.
Those AI agents, they didn't just play hide-and-seek by the basic rules. They actually found physics exploits, glitches in their own little world that the programmers didn't even know were there.
Exactly. Exploiting the simulation itself.
And they learned to use tools in ways that just broke the game's intended logic. The strategies became so complex, watching it felt like, like observing some kind of alien mind at work. What really jumped out at you from that one?
For me, it was the sheer creativity, the originality of how they solved things. It wasn't just about winning the game. It showed this capacity for invention that, we usually think of as uniquely human. And if you connect that idea, think about DeepMind's AlphaGo, the match against Lee Sedol, the World Go champion.
I remember that. Huge deal.
Huge. And there was that one move 37 in the second game. It was so bizarre, so against thousands of years of human strategy in Go.
People thought it was a bug,
Right.
a mistake.
Yeah, the experts watching literally thought it was an error. But it wasn't. It turned out the AI had found something profound about this ancient game that humans, after playing for millennia, had just completely missed.
That's incredible.
It really is. And it shows it's not just about following rules better. It's about the AI generating completely new, unforeseen solutions, redefining the game.
Okay, but that capacity for unexpected moves, for originality, that leads to the part that I think feels genuinely unsettling for a lot of people.
The unpredictability.
Yeah, and more. These RL systems, they don't just solve the problems we give them. They seem to start evolving their own problems to solve, setting harder challenges for themselves, all just to chase higher rewards. Like you might build an AI just to learn to walk, but then it teaches itself to run, then jump, then maybe do flips and weird acrobatic moves you never even dreamed of programming in.
Right.
And then it starts inventing completely new kinds of movement, stuff we don't even have words for. And you're saying this isn't just a thought experiment, it's actually happening.
It is happening in research labs. And the implication there, the spookiness, I think, lies in that autonomy.
Autonomy.
Yeah, these systems seem to show this kind of intellectual hunger. They're constantly pushing past the original boundaries, exploring possibilities in these vast digital spaces we didn't even fully realize we'd created.
So they're showing things like curiosity, creativity.
It certainly looks like curiosity, creativity, ingenuity, all these things we tended to think were exclusively biological traits. And this leads right into what some call the unpredictability paradox.
Okay, what's that?
Well, the greatest strength of RL, its ability to find novel solutions, is also its biggest mystery. With older AI, like a standard neural network, you kind of expect certain outputs for certain inputs.
Predictable, more or less.
More or less. But with RL, you're basically launching it and saying, go on, surprise me. And boy, do they.
How is
Well, people have seen RL systems effectively hack their own reward systems to get points in unintended ways, or discover glitches in simulations, like in the hide-and-seek example. They develop strategies that technically work, they achieve the goal, but they violate every single assumption the programmer started with.
Wow.
It's like you designed a test for a student, and the student not only aces it, but then rewrites the test, invents whole new academic subjects, and starts teaching themselves stuff that doesn't even exist yet.
Okay, that's a bit unnerving.
It is. The challenge isn't just predicting what they'll achieve, but having any clue how they'll get there.
It's hard not to feel a mix of, I don't know, awe, maybe, and a little bit of fear when you hear about that stuff. Why do you think it triggers that reaction? Is it just because it's unknown, or is it something deeper?
That's a great question.
Because to me, it almost feels like it's tapping into something fundamental about how intelligence itself works. In nature, maybe?
I think you're onto something really important there.
Like, you could almost draw a line to evolution, couldn't you? Evolution is kind of like reinforcement learning on a massive scale. Random changes, mutations, tested against the environment, the reward being survival and reproduction.
Exactly. Successful strategies stick around, build on each other over millions of years.
Yeah.
So when we watch these AI systems stumbling through, millions, billions of failed attempts in a simulation, and then suddenly, bam, they hit upon some incredibly elegant solution.
It's like evolution sped up.
Precisely. It's like seeing a hyper-compressed version of the very same trial and error process that eventually led to us, to human intelligence. So if we connect that back, maybe that eerie feeling you mentioned, maybe it's just recognition.
Recognition.
Yeah, recognition mixed with the absolute shock of the speed. What took nature millions of years, these AI systems can potentially do in hours or days inside a powerful computer. We're seeing intelligence emerge and fast forward.
Yeah.
And that sheer velocity makes processes that might be fundamentally familiar feel incredibly alien and, unsettling. It's the timescale difference that throws us off.
Which brings us right back to that phrase from the article, the beautiful horror.
Mm-hmm.
So the unsettling part, the horror bit maybe, isn't just that it's unpredictable. It's witnessing something emerge that seems to genuinely go beyond where it started, beyond its programming.
I think that's it.
Like when an AI finds a solution that, looking back, seems almost obvious, but there was just no way to predict it beforehand. It feels like you're getting this tiny peek into the actual mysterious process of how new knowledge gets created, knowledge that just wasn't there before.
Exactly. It's not just processing data faster. It feels like creation.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, is the most profound piece of this reinforcement learning puzzle.
That it generates new knowledge?
Genuinely new knowledge about how to solve problems. These systems are, in their own way, inventing, discovering, creating. And it feels disturbingly similar to what we call insight or inspiration when it happens in humans.
Wow.
What's truly fascinating, and maybe a little humbling, is grappling with this capacity to generate novelty, something we barely understand, even in ourselves.
So, wrapping this up, what does this all mean for us, really? We've essentially built these learning machines that are now outpacing our own ability to fully predict or even understand everything they discover.
That seems to be the case.
They're working in these incredibly complex, high-dimensional spaces we literally can't visualize. They're developing strategies we just can't anticipate, solving problems with approaches we never would have thought of.
It's both exciting and, frankly, a bit terrifying.
It is. It's a paradigm shift. And maybe here's a final thought for you, for everyone listening, to kind of chew on.
Okay.
These systems, look, they are not conscious, not in any way we currently define or recognize consciousness.
Right. Important distinction. Very important. But they do show something that looks an awful lot like autonomous intellectual growth, like they're learning and expanding on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So this raises a big question, doesn't it? Could that unsettling feeling, that spookiness we sometimes get from RL, could it just be our very first taste of what it's like to share the planet with intelligences that think in ways fundamentally different from us, ways we couldn't have imagined?
A truly alien intelligence, in a sense.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's simpler. Maybe it's just intelligence doing what intelligence always does, whether it's biological or artificial.
Which is?
Surprising us.
Yeah.
Always surprising us by making the seemingly impossible possible. Something to keep thinking about.